We begin tonight's program with Leigh Baughman, who's Executive Director of the Union Square Improvement District. She's got 15 years experience in commercial property management, and I presume that would be very helpful in what you're doing. You know, the question I have is, Union Square is thriving now.
Correct.
If there had been no improvement district, where would it be today in this economy?
Oh, I think drastically different, because the property values are based on what's happening on the sidewalks, and the value of the building drives the tenant mix that they'll get as their tenants in the buildings, and so they wouldn't have been able to get the type of tenants that are actually
What do you
there
think?
now.
How would it look to a tourist or to a visitor?
Oh, I think our tourism would
Without,
be down dramatically.
Yeah, of course you're going to say that,
yeah.
but I mean, in reality, we'll go through the different services you provide. But do you think, like in some tourist areas in this country, for example, Fisherman's Wharf, the tourists really don't care whether there's dirt, whether there's homeless. They accept that just part of coming to San Francisco, because that's what they've read about, and they just presume that's true. That's true in Venice and a lot of other tourist places where it's not very clean, but they're in a place they wanted to be. So do you think that it would make any difference? You think retailers would really reject Union Square?
I definitely think people wouldn't hang around as long. I think they would the tourists would go to the tourist attractions, such as ride the cable car, but they're not going to stay and shop or eat in Union Square Park, or just walk up and down the streets. They probably would take public transportation or cabs a lot more than walking in our city, which is what's one of the greatest things that you can do, is being able to walk through our city. It would be a war zone.
And how about the retailers? You think that the retailers would stay away if the condition wasn't as it is today?
Absolutely, yeah. Because there was a robbery today, a snatch and grab. They walked into the San Francisco Shopping Center, broke the glass on a jewelry store tenant that was right inside the door, grabbed a bunch of watches and ran out. And so if that were happening every single day up and down Powell Street and Post and Stockton and all those streets, then no, the retail tenants wouldn't come.
What do you do, or what does the improvement district do to stop people from breaking glass and ripping off jewelry every hour?
Well, that's a crime that we don't deal a lot with. Now, if he were to just run down the street, my ambassador program, the Goodwill Ambassadors is what we call them, would actually shadow him down the street until a police officer were able to apprehend him or something, and just being able to get their description. But we wouldn't intercept
You've
something.
done that? That's happened?
Oh, absolutely. Shoplifting, where people have gone in and grabbed, clothes or purses or whatever and ran out. They've actually followed them, gotten the description, and the police have been able to intercept them while we're following them, seeing what they're doing. Absolutely.
All right, I think that most people, when they think of an improvement district, or they think of New York Times Square, got that right? Yeah, it was a real problem area.
Absolutely, and it's one of the best examples of a business improvement district.
And you based your model on that?
Yes and no. I mean, we looked at their model heavily, but they do a tremendous amount more of things like marketing and promo, and they do a lot of events. Our bid in the Union Square area is just a clean and safe program. So we have an ambassador program that's 7 days a week. They help tourists with directions. They're the eyes and ears for the police. We are creating what I kind of like to call a Disneyland effect out on the public spaces and interacting with the tourist. And then we have a cleaning team we call the TAG team, which is Take Away Graffiti and Grime. It's an acronym we created to try to take that tag word back from the taggers. And then they go through 7 days a week as well, and they sweep up trash and remove illegal postings and wipe down street furniture.
And the taggers don't come back once you remove the tags?
Not as frequently.
Because isn't that part of the tradition of tagging?
Absolutely, yeah. But the faster we can get it off, then the more frustrated they get, and
they'll
go to an area where it stays up.
I was watching a sister station to Comcast. It's public access, and they had some of the top taggers on.
Yeah.
In ski masks and everything. And they said it was their right. It was their right to tag or to do artistic, public art anywhere they want. It actually enhances the city. So do you get that kind of individual operating, or were they operating in Union Square before you did this program?
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's not public art in any way, shape, or form. It's outright
Some of it is
vandalism.
very good, though. In fact, some of the retailers
okay.
are trying to copy it in
Yeah.
their designs.
Oh yeah.
But I agree, they don't have a right. And no one called in. I was going to call in, but I decided not to. Everyone praised them for that. But
Yeah.
so they stay away from Union Square because of your operation?
Because we're removing it as fast as we put it up. We don't get as much of the more artistic type graffiti work that happens. We get a lot of the tags, so it's more almost gang-like tags, but I don't really know if there's an actual gang in our neighborhood, but yeah.
There are gangs near your neighborhood in the Tenderloin.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Which is just adjacent to you.
Right, and so they're more like the initials or somebody's actual tag, and so it's not the colorful mural type graffiti that people are used to seeing when they refer to it as art.
Now let's go to our subject we deal with a great deal. Either call it homelessness or street people. They're not the same thing.
No.
Very significant population in that area.
Yes.
Was or now?
Greatly reduced. We do still have people that, what we call our regulars, that do live in the area that we sort of consider service resistant. They've been talked to by the homeless outreach people in offering them services. They've either chosen not to receive them. They want to live on the streets for whatever reason.
Do they camp out in Union Square?
Not in the square, no. There's 24-hour security in Union Square Park. So
is it illegal for them to camp out in the square?
In the square it is, because it's actually, that's Rec and Park, so that belongs to the Rec and Parks Department.
But they camp all over the city in parks.
Well...
How do you get away with it?
We have 24-hour security there, so there are people...
When you say security, do you mean security guards or police, San Francisco police, or what?
No, there's security guards.
That you hire?
They're actually, that's run by a different company. It's there's a supplemental contract through the parking company there that manages the garage. And they hire a company called MJM Management, and she provides 24-hour-a-day security for the park.
But it's kind of, but in other words, it's illegal to camp in the park. It's illegal.
It's illegal to camp anywhere in the city.
Right, but how, it's remarkable that is there not in a wink here that people realize this is a retail center of the region, if not one of the best in the country, and that you are allowed to deal with that problem on the streets differently than other neighborhoods or other business districts. I hear terrible stories. We've had them related here on this program.
Yeah. I think it's looked at more as we're protecting a $25 million asset that the city, that all of the taxpayers in San Francisco are paying for. It's paid for a parking revenue bond that was put out. And so we're protecting that asset. And we have the money in place to put the private security out there.
Not just the square.
No, in just the square. In the 10-block area
Yeah,
around Union Square Park, that's where the bid is. And, you know, it's not against the law to be homeless. It's not against the law to sleep on the sidewalk overnight.
How about during the day?
During the day, it's looked at in multiple different ways. If they're sprawled out across the sidewalk and they're blocking pedestrian traffic, then they can't do that.
And what do you do
I mean, whether they're homeless or not, you can't do that.
A lot of people, a lot of the individuals are on different substances. Okay, so what do? Do you get reports and you actually can call the police, or how do you handle that?
Well, it depends on the condition of the person that we're interacting with. If they are in need of medical attention, then we sort of make a diagnosis whether they need to go to the hospital or they need to go to the Mobile Assistance Patrol and just go to one of the homeless shelters and get cleaned up. And we actually ask the person that we're dealing with, because if you go with the ambulance care, their belongings can't go with them. And if they go with the Mobile Assistance Patrol, which is run through the city, and they have vans, then they will take their belongings with them. And so a lot of times the person that we're dealing with will actually request whichever one they want to go to, unless they're beyond such a point and they're bleeding and we actually need to get them medical attention.
So you work with city services.
Correct.
When there's a situation?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And if someone has started camping in a doorway, you're going to be there?
Absolutely.
How long does it take you to get there?
Well, our employees start, we have the cleaning team, the tag team starts at around 6 a.m. and they're sweeping up and picking up cardboard that's been left out, either, you know, not picked up by the city services or the homeless person's left it in the doorway. And so they start sort of waking people up at that point. If there's a sign posted in the doorway by the retail tenant and or the property owner, then they can be cited. The homeless person who's sleeping in the door can be cited for sleeping there because the posting says that no one's allowed to trespass. Typically, that doesn't happen. I mean, we just rouse them and say, you're not allowed to sleep here.
And you, by what, 8 o'clock, everyone's gone?
For the most part, yeah.
So you see what you got here. First of all, you have to do the services that the city is supposed to provide. We accept that. I mean, the fact is cleaning, dealing with crime and all that, these are city services, and you've had to supplement it for the sake of that district.
Right.
But it seems to me that you're actually doing a better job than the city in your little 10-block area, because these are the very problems that they tell me they can't solve.
Right. Well, we're highly concentrated with employees based on just this 10-block area. And I don't know the numbers on, the number of police officers per square block or how it's factored out, but I have, 15 of what I call the Goodwill ambassadors and 15 of the taggers. And so there's, 4 to 5 people out on the street at any given time dealing with this in a 10-block area. What
happens when this big center opens, the Westfield Center, which crosses Market, and that's in your mapped area?
It is in the bid.
And yet there's a lot of activity going on there. And is that going to change the dynamics of Union Square as far as having such a major retail cluster so far from Union Square?
Oh, I don't think so. I think it's still been considered the shopping district because of the current San Francisco shopping center there now that's anchored by Nordstrom's. I think we're just going to draw a lot more shoppers, but I don't think it's going to be overweighted towards the south of Market side than Union Square.
Or tax your services any further?
We'll be hiring more people.
Because?
When we bring them in, correct, yeah. Only the Market Street side of the San Francisco Center is in the bid right now. And once they open the doors September 28th, then we'll circle the block and go down 4th Street to Mission and back up 5th Street. And so we'll have to employ more people for that.
And how does that work out with the mayor's office and with the city? How do you work with the city? They allow you to do this, or do they give you complete freedom over those 10-block areas to do what you're doing right now, or do you get to report to them? Or
well, I wouldn't call it complete freedom.
Well, what you're doing.
Yeah, we're supplementing city services, and I am a central voice for the city agencies that I work with, DPT, DPW, mayor's office, correct. And so it actually helps them to focus their services that are the regular tax-based services that we are getting, and then I supplement on top of that, and we work really well together.
Sounds that way.
Yeah, and I report, annually to the Board of Supervisors with my annual report.
And they've given you unanimous approval each year?
Absolutely.
Well, maybe you should consider becoming mayor of San Francisco based on what you're doing. I think we'd see some improvement, perhass.
I don't know
Leigh Baughman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And stay with us. We'll be right back.